Hello and welcome to Good One, a podcast about jokes. I am the host, Jesse David Fox, a senior writer at Vulture and the author of comedy book, How Comedy Conquered Culture and the Magic That Makes It Work. Since 2017, I've been hosting Good One, a show where the guest comes on to discuss the process and thinking behind one of their jokes, bits, or sketches. It's essentially a comedy unboxing video. My Gen Z intern told me to say. Just kidding. I wrote that. I have no interns. Over the last 8 years, I've interviewed, 200 comedians, from Bo Burnham to Kate McKinnon, Cat Williams to John Mulaney, Bill Burr to Tig Notaro. You can listen to any of my interviews, including this interview, wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can watch some of my interviews here on the Vulture YouTube channel. This is the first of hopefully many truly video Good One episodes. The guests are Nate Bargatze, Mikey Day, and Streeter Seidell. We all talk about the sketch George Washington, which aired on SNL when Nate first hosted in 2023, and was written by Mikey and Streeter. Streeter is one of the head writers at SNL. He's been a writer since season 40. Mikey has been a writer since season 39, before joining the cast in season 42. We will start, as all episodes do, with a clip of the joke, or in this case, the sketch, which is the first incarnation of George Washington, and then we'll talk about how the heck it came together. So, here is George Washington.
2,000 pounds shall be called a ton.
And what will 1,000 pounds be called, sir?
Nothing.
Cool. All right. Thank you all for joining me.
Yeah.
So, I want to start with Nate. As you're getting success as a stand-up, when did the possibility of doing SNL first cross your mind?
The year I got it. So when was it last year?
2023.
2023. Yes, it was last year. Act like it's been there for, feels like it's been forever. But earlier that year, I think I heard, my agent said that someone was coming to see me in Vegas, and they're like they were a fan, and so it was even just that the door was kind of open. So I heard it then, and then when I came to Radio City, a lot of people from SNL came out to that show, and then it kind of just worked out with the actor strike was going on. And so it was just like, as a comedian, we have nothing. We're just alone. There's no union. There's
protection.
no nothing. Yeah. So we were just available for everything. So it just ended up working out like that. I got the call about 2 weeks before, and then was like, all right, it's happening. And so
at that point, or even what was your relationship to SNL growing up? Did your family watch it, or even what was your relationship to sketch? I know when you started to do comedy, you first moved to Chicago.
Yeah. It was, I was a big SNL fan. Like growing up, especially around my age, like with the Sandler and Spade and the whole group, Will Ferrell. So I was for a big giant fan of all the people that they were. SNL was I remember watching it. My buddies, they were obsessed with it. And I loved it too. And I watched it, and it was something that I kind of did want to have in my career, but at this point I was just figured I didn't think I never auditioned for anything because I never thought I could get it in a million years. I don't do anything, so I was like, what could I do? Yeah, what could I do? What could I get? So I kind of thought it was going to be, I just was like, all right, I'll just never do SNL, but everybody that I looked up to, all their roots went through SNL. So, I was probably, I was a little jealous to not have any roots go through SNL. So then now to get to do it and actually have SNL be this big of an impact on my career is wonderful.
So I want to go through the days of the week, talk about how the sketch emerged and sort of how your all working partnership developed. So Monday is the initial pitch night. Mikey and Streeter, this was the third show in a row of the 49th season. How are you feeling at that point? What are you doing? Do you pitch anything on a Monday night this far into your run at the show?
Always, yeah.
I thought y'all did pitch it.
Yeah, we did pitch.
Briefly.
Usually a silly idea, right? Monday pitch.
Did we pitch this idea tonight? Is that
Anything.
what you're asking?
What did you do Monday night?
Did you say Washington? I thought you said something Washington, but maybe
We might have.
Yeah,
I
it
can't
wasn't
remember.
this, but it was
Yeah.
maybe it was like George Washington. Or
Definitely
something.
on
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Sure.
I remember.
But we're not on
being
Tuesday,
like,
we're
oh,
on Monday.
excuse me, we're on Monday. I think on Monday we're probably just in a panic, going like, what are we gonna
Yeah.
do? You know, going
What are
through
we gonna
ideas.
do?
Maybe we had said maybe
Yeah,
something
I
with
don't know.
George Washington.
Yeah,
But this idea was not around on Monday in
Yeah.
terms of us talking to Nate about it.
Yeah, and it's an old. We had like a half draft of a very different version of it
Yeah.
from the previous season.
Yeah.
That I think probably on Monday we probably looked at that and said like, oh, maybe we can finish
get
this.
they were
off.
trying to sell it. No one was buying.
Yeah, no one wanted it.
And I walked in.
Well, it was at a few different locales.
Yeah,
the
it was
original.
very, very different and worse. I would say much worse.
What
Yeah.
was I believe the initial spark of doing a George Washington sketch started with you, Streeter. What was the very initial thing to be like, oh, what if I wrote a George Washington sketch?
The very initial thing from the previous season was I had been watching the HBO show John Adams, and Mikey and I were joking about the scene where it's during his inauguration and no one can hear him. That was like the initial kind of idea for it.
I feel like I watch John Adams once a year.
Yeah,
You
it's
watch
great.
it?
We always
So
joke.
good.
We love to do Giamatti,
The man from Connecticut.
how his voice goes real quiet. He's like, he's like, and I would rather be a snake slithering in the grass. He ramps up and very fun show. But anyway, that's what it started as.
Do you remember who the host was for that?
I don't remember. I just remember us talking about, should it be his first day in office? Should it be an inaugural address?
Right.
What should the locale be to get out the stakes of this fledgling country and all these dumb things that he's saying? But I don't
I think
know
all it
if
had
was-
progressed to in that like half draft was the idea that Washington's saying this is what the country's going to be. But it wasn't so targeted as to like the weights and measures thing that it became.
So, and then for you, Nate, your first day is coming in Monday. How are you feeling?
It was like first time meeting Lauren, first time being in those offices. They do really good job of making you feel comfortable and welcomed. So that was nice. But yeah, then when you go into Lauren's office and everybody comes and sits on the floor, that's a little more crowded than
children.
you really think. Yeah, it's everybody. So you're just in there. I don't think I realized that. So
I haven't talked to an adult who's sitting on the floor.
Oh yeah, they're going around like you're just everybody, and then you don't know how to react. Like, 'cause I don't want someone not to get their sketch because I stink or I'm something. So you're trying to be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know. Like, is this really it? Like, I didn't want to be like, hey, I like that idea. They're like, you idiot. He goes, I was just trying to get out of the room, and I was like, oh, then I compliment an idea. So it was. It was very, very interesting. It was like, I just kind of sit there and was like, you just kind of go around and take it all in.
Did you think that night, oh, this is going to go great or this is going to be terrible? Like, did you have any sense of what the show would be like from Monday?
I think I felt relieved that, because I said about, I don't want to be, I want to be clean. So I felt relieved that I think almost all of them were sketches that were not political, basically not clean. So that I did feel the relief of that, because sometimes you just get worried, like I'm going to get pitched everything and be like, hey, you don't want to, I don't want to constantly go, I don't want to say that, I don't want to say that. So I was relieved that it wasn't that.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that you told them ahead of time you didn't want to do anything political or sexual. Can you talk about that why that was and why you wanted to make sure that was the case?
Yeah, it's just what I do on stage, so it just fits with what I do. I'm not the sexual and stuff I wouldn't do, but political, it's like I doubt I would do it either, but it'd have to really be something down the middle of the line that like doesn't really lean to one side or the other. But yeah, so I just was like, I'd rather just, it's just not what I do. I can tell what I'll be comfortable with selling and what I won't be comfortable selling. And so if there's a line or something that I'm like, I'm not going to deliver this line the best because I'm going to probably deliver it more nervous than I would. And so I would but they did unbelievable for that.
Yeah. So going into Tuesday, knowing Nate's voice and that Nate won, what is that exciting for y'all? To like, oh, he doesn't want to be doing things that are edgy in these ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always try. Every host has things they want to do or they don't want to do, and we're not going to try to make anyone do something they don't want to do and just create a bad show. So we're used to working within different host guidelines,
Sometimes it was the Halloween show too.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh yeah,
it was the Halloween show.
So I mean, it's for us. It wasn't any big change. Every single host has certain things that they're, that they don't want to touch, and we're not going to try to force it on anyone. That would not go well.
Mm-hmm.
Before we dive into writing, I want to back up a little bit to talk about your two relationship because
relationship,
or your partnership. Mikey, you started on the show in season 39 as a writer. You brought in partly to write with Taran Killam and Nassim Pedrad, who were on the cast at the time, and you knew from Groundlings. Streeter, you started in season 40. You were hired with Cher Snyder from College Humor. How did you find
Not
each other?
with her. She hired me.
What? Really?
Yeah, she was there a long time before me.
Really?
I think she just recommended
Got
me
it.
to
Okay.
the head writers.
So Cher recommended you, and so there you are, worlds apart at the beginning. You don't know each other necessarily. How did you find each other at the show, and what is it about one another that clicked?
Wow.
We were
put
put
in
into an office.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Together.
They put us in an office.
It's like college. You're like, okay, you're my roommate. I remember someone going, your new office mate is named Streeter. And I'm like, Streeter? Because I've never heard that name. But at the same time, my name's Mikey, so I feel like it works out. We sound like a Nickelodeon show. And then I feel like by necessity and just the nature of the place, we just started working. Like he was up at 4 a.m., I was up at 4 a.m., and it was like, is this funny? And then it just kind of started happening. But I do remember the first episode. It was our first week working together. He was asleep on our couch, and I was leaning over him, smoking a cigarette out the window on the 17th floor. You immediately get comfortable with your colleagues there.
Yeah. I think it was we were roommates. I was writing with the new writers because there was 5 of us, so we all kind of just clung to each other because you don't know what you're doing and no one really holds your hand there. And then a few shows in, I remember pitching on one of Mikey's ideas, and we're just laughing a lot, having a good time, and it was like, oh, let's try to do like one weird one, you and me, like late in the night.
Yeah.
And then like that weird one became, let's do 2, and then eventually you just,
And then
it's like when you get to college, you just cling to your. This is kind of the opposite, but you cling to whoever the first people you meet are, and then like over a few weeks, you start to meet your real friends, and you're like, oh, okay, say goodbye to this guy. Thanks for the memories, but I found my one.
Close Encounter. I found my one.
I found my person.
That
Day
should be
one.
on a greeting card. I found my one. Close Encounter was the next season, right? Yeah, that was my third, your second. Okay.
Is there a thing that you're like, that's what we're able to do together?
Tolerate each other, I guess. I don't know.
You mean like a type of sketch?
Sure, or just like something about the way you work together. You probably both have written with other people before.
I don't know. It's hard to like. It's just this weird alchemy and chemistry that you can't really pinpoint.
We can recognize good ideas in each other, and I don't think there's any ego about, that was his idea, or, it's just kind of like,
we're sort of
let's go with the best idea.
synonymized, which is great because I respect this man a great deal, so I enjoy being lumped in with his successes as well as our failures.
Yeah.
We share successes and failures as well.
Yeah.
Mikey, was it ever floated that you might be a head writer as well?
Whoa, this is getting intense.
Jesse should be. You can have my
I
job.
don't know.
Yeah,
I
do you
didn't
want Streeter's
really-
job? Go ahead.
I
Tell me.
don't
Because-
running
for my
for-
Are you England? What if you and Streeter switch places? Go ahead.
I don't know.
I just want to be a cast member. He just wants to be a head writer. I was saying, let's just one
Why
for
not?
one.
Yeah.
I don't really. There wasn't really. I don't think any discussion about it. And then, luckily, was able to do cast as well on my 4th season there. what's so cool about writing there is that even when you're on cast and you write something, you produce it, and it's so creatively fulfilling.
Yeah.
You produce your piece from start to finish. The buck stops with you on everything. I mean, you talk to wardrobe and hair and makeup and everything to help make it happen. But like I think even down to the shots.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell Liz, our director, who's awesome, but you can be like, can we go in closer? Can we hold here? So it's a pretty fantastic the way the show's designed.
So Tuesday night, Nate, how late did you stay up? Were you around?
Nate was walking around the hallway just like, this sucks.
I go,
This give me
God.
something.
I go, this show, I go, how's it on? I would ask them, how's it? I go, I've met all your writers.
Calling us all clowns.
I went to Laura and I go, I'd like to meet the real group.
Not these.
No, Tuesday was you go into each room. The first time Tuesday, I think I did actually get out not too late because I went and I would go run my set, my monologue, and so that one I did, and then because the next one I only ran the monologue on that Monday, I believe, and I think I was there. Everything got later. I think the second episode I was there a lot more than I was. The first episode was Monday was kind of like you're there from 3 to 9 or something like that. And then I was able to go run and do a couple sets.
How did you approach your monologue, considering this would be the first time being in front of a specifically new audience?
I messed with it a lot. I changed it a ton. I was trying to. I would record it and I would give it to them to listen to. No one cares. No one wants to listen to it. Like, you really can't believe it because I'm so used to getting it to. Like you do a Tonight Show, you do anything, you got to kind of show them what you're going to go do. And they were like, do whatever you want. And I'd be like, did you listen to it? And they're like, it doesn't matter. I just couldn't believe that there was just this trust that I'm going to go, can do what I think is appropriate. And so
I love it, by the way, when there's a stand-up host, because it's like, oh, great. They'll just take care of the monologue. That's like one less thing we have to worry about. We trust them. They know how to do that better than we can tell them. So
I messed around with it a lot though, because I was trying to. I understood the moment I was kind of getting into. I know, even though I was at a point where we were starting, I was doing some arenas and with the stand-up, it was doing it. But this was, I've only been through the stand-up world, so this is actually a total other audience. And so I kind of knew the moment. So I was really, that first one, I went and ran it and did a lot of sets. I'd go down the cellar and just they have, 4 or 5 rooms. I'd just do 5 shows and just mess with it and try to figure out what to open with, where it's going to go. It was, a lot of the jokes are in my new special. But it's like, but I couldn't tell the whole joke. Mm-hmm. So it's like just grabbing what I could grab out of it and all that, and then just go out and try to do the best. I was pretty nervous. I was actually more nervous about the monologue than I was anything else. Because everything else, you're like, I'm not, if I stink, it's like, you're like, I'm not good at this.
Yeah. But they wrote it. They asked me to do it.
Blame it on us, of course. Yeah. You'd be like,
the monologue, you feel like there's there's that pressure. They're like, oh, great, a comic's here, so the beginning will be great. And so then you're like, will it? I don't know. It's like you're still in a studio audience. You're like, I hope it goes great and all this. And then it took a moment to when I don't know if I might be getting ahead, but when you go out there and you do it and you see, because you can see yourself on TV, there's a monitor right there. And so just doing it. And I mean, in my head, your moments, you're like, there's millions of people watching this right now, not later. They're now.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of wild.
You're working on the stand-up. How does it then? You had this failed George Washington or the stalled George Washington idea. How do you then break through to have it be this completely different direction?
I think we just talked about it, Mikey and I, and then when Nate came around to meet with everybody, you as the host, you go meet with all the writers on Tuesday. I think we mentioned it like, you're Washington. I think by that point it had become Valley Forge and. You're laying out, the rules for the country. I remember, Nate, you being like, yeah, that's something I could do. Like, that sounds like in my wheelhouse. And we're like, great, done. That's it. You just need the littlest encouragement
Yeah.
from a host to be like,
Rather than a blank
let's commit our
stare.
night to this one. You know?
It's always better than a blank stare and silence. And you're like,
yeah.
or something else. Or something else.
We probably hit you with like 15 ideas, but I do remember Washington. You
I think
saying, like, that's in my wheelhouse.
Yeah. And it felt like y'all wanted, that was the idea too, that
Yeah.
out of all your ideas you would have pitched, it was not like it was, you have to do it, but it was like, hey, this idea we would like to do. And then I was like, yeah, I would like to do that idea. So it just kind of came together to be like, all right. But I didn't remember seeing much. I mean, you know, y'all really, I was a lot of trust. I was just like, all right, I guess there'll be.
Let's see what happens.
See what they're
There'll
gonna
be
do. Yeah.
sketches tomorrow.
Yeah.
It is weird thinking now, especially that I don't know who was hosting when we were working on the original. What Washington? It would later become with Nate, but the original infant stages of the sketch, it's crazy to think of anyone but Nate
Yeah.
being Washington. I feel like it was fated that
Yeah.
it wasn't happening.
Yeah, especially with this direction. It
Yeah.
just truly, it's why people think you wrote it. You're like, well, it just seems like you
It's
adapted
like,
your stand-up.
Of course, it's Nate. I think they should
Every
put
now and
Nate
then
on
that-
our money now.
That happens. You just have a half idea. You know there's something good about it, but whoever was there the week you thought of it, just like, it's not right. So you file it away, and then someone like Nate shows up, and you go, oh, that one. Oh, that'll
Yeah.
mesh perfect. And I remember when we were writing it, too, it was just like super easy to write. Just kind of came tumbling out, and that's usually a good sign.
And like I recently heard Conan talking about it, and he was saying, I just kind of resigned to there's magic to that place, and sometimes you can try and recreate it sometimes, and sometimes you'll get some great results, but there's just this weird magic that happens with the right host and the right idea at the right time. It was one of those, I feel like.
You know who else loved it? I just found out last night.
Ooh.
You don't know.
Do
Tom
tell.
Hanks.
Really?
Tom Hanks.
Boy.
Tom Hanks
All
told me
right.
last
I have a
night.
question later.
Pumpkin.
Oh, really?
To be like, because the
I'm
one,
jumping ahead with Tom Hanks.
No, it's fine. It's
He
Tom's
goes,
like, you
he goes,
give
he was
him-
here. I go, golly.
You give him
well, come
George
on in,
Washington,
Tom.
and I get
Well,
the crazy pumpkin man.
one of my favorite things about SNL is like if a sketch does well, one of Lorne's friends will like reach out to be like, I like
That's
that.
when you
Yeah.
know it did well when Lauren's
Yeah.
like,
I have ended
talk
up
to
because
one
I've
of his
I've just been in situations. I met Steve Martin Short. I mean, everybody's brought it up to me.
Yeah.
I went to John Mulaney's All In play last night, so that's where everybody was there from SNL. It's great. Everybody go see it. But it was like, I mean, Alec Baldwin, like Tom Hanks, Jon Stewart, and that, all of them were saying, because I only see them very in moments, like because I don't live here anymore, and like, so then when I see them, they're all like, and they only talk about that. So there you go.
awesome.
Congrats.
I told Tom Hanks I wrote it though.
That's all
I said I
right.
wrote it. It was Tom Hanks.
We heard
I
you
got-
wrote
yeah.
Tom Hanks. You
It's
got
Tom
it.
Hanks.
Yeah.
I go. I was the only one that wrote it. I go. Lauren refused to do it. I said, Lauren, you better let me do it. And yeah.
Thanks, Tom. I wrote it alone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And he was like,
He
that's
didn't even ask that.
I know.
I go, oh yeah, the one I wrote alone. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
it was a good one.
And who's this? Steve Martin. Hi, I wrote it alone. Thank you. I wrote it alone. That's so funny.
And Tom's like, that's funny. I wrote David Pumpkins.
I wrote David Pumpkins.
I go, wow.
So how do you have the initial turn of like, oh, he's going to be talking about these sort of like observations of things that don't make any sense, to the different moves within the sketch? Did that just sort of come through talking it out?
Yeah, the Keenan stuff,
Yeah.
right?
The Keenan stuff was like, we need something else other
Right.
than
To break it up.
to break it up. And then the idea that Nate's character, that Washington, is just going to not answer and keep going felt like a perfect way to say everything without saying anything at all, you know?
I feel like for every
Honestly, the most historically accurate part of the whole thing, too. I think
Right.
that they were just like, we're just, we'll deal with that later.
You asked
For
about
now, we're
money.
going to focus on this. Later on, we'll deal with all that.
For every fact in there, too, about weights and measurements and all of that, Streeter knows even more that we'd have to reel you in. You're like, because you know how milliliters, the conversion rate in some part of Europe, and it's like,
don't.
you
I don't
do
remember
know
any
so
of this
much,
stuff.
and he knows so much about history too.
He wrote it without looking anything up.
Yeah.
Just go-
Streeter will be like, should we do a sketch about that small uprising in 1512? What? Philip's last uprising.
Talking about King Philip's War.
I'm thinking
Fascinating.
about
You guys
all
should
of
look
the
into
stuff that you know, because you're a smart man.
A smart about
You're like,
history.
yeah. I mean, you're smart about a lot of things, but I just,
I mean,
it'll
none
just
of that
be funny.
has made it into this
Because
sketch. It's all
Street will
just
be like,
nonsense.
do you think people know about King Philip's War and why it's so funny? I'm like, I don't know if maybe, I guess we could explain it to people.
I've never heard of the John Adams thing y'all mentioned earlier. So
You haven't seen John Adams?
Oh,
that's
you
just a
gotta
TV
watch
show.
John Adams. It's
From
really
years
good.
ago.
Yeah, I don't know. The jokes, I mean, it changed a lot too. Like the one that Nate read at table had like,
It was super long.
it was long. There was a lot of jokes about. I just remember this. We had a
Gun?
millimeters thing, and it was like, we'll only use that for guns.
Yeah.
We'll also have another thing called caliber, and no one will really know the difference or why we're using. But it was just too. It was getting like
Too much.
too muddy. And then
Yeah.
so we put like the football stuff in instead.
Oh, yeah, the
it was like
football
much
was
more
new.
that came from the table. It was much more accessible. I'm like, oh, that's an easy. And then the way Nate delivered, it's a little kick.
There's a little kick.
That was perfect.
Nate's stare is incredible. His stare out, the blank stare, it's truly cannot be captured by anyone else, Nate. I don't know what's going on or what you're doing, but it's incredible.
Thank you.
Just,
I don't know if I know. What
are
I'm
you
doing.
making any choice? Because there's
Just-
liberty behind the blank stare as well. You can see
it looks
Washington's
like
vision.
how Washington's always
yeah, when
sort
you-
of glancing off into the future. And
When you got it, do you go, I'm playing the character George Washington right now? Or you go, I'm going to read this as Nate if he was wearing a wig?
I don't know if I completely think that. Yeah, I think it's. But I mean, you do.
Method
I think
acting.
he was kind of trying to talk a little, maybe more presidential. I'm got to be in control of these
very
men. And,
declarative.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, so it's like you're. Yeah, so it's like I'm saying it like that, and but yeah, I don't know if I thought of. The staring off is just. I mean, well, y'all were telling me to stare off. You're like,
Yeah.
Here you go. You
And
stare
you're- and
off,
you're reading
and
cue
you're reading
cards.
cue cards.
And we put
So-
the cards up high.
Yeah,
too,
so
you're
kind of looking up.
over everyone.
Hey, I was trying not to like where it's so obvious that you're looking at the cue cards, so you kind of like can look at them, but then it looks like you're looking, and so I was just able to play in the circumstances that I was in.
Yeah.
It's hard on when you're on stage performing. This is mostly with the second one. If you make eye contact with Nate, it's hard not to break. So I try to look out a lot and you can feel in your periphery him staring at you with that George Washington stare. Because you're like, I can't stare into
He's
it.
a serious man.
Yeah.
George
Yeah.
Washington.
Yeah, George
There hasn't been a lot of portrayals, I feel like, of George Washington in media. I mean, beyond that.
They went to straight John Adams.
one.
Yeah.
They went straight to John Adams. They didn't get Washington in the show.
You don't really know
He's
him.
kind of boring. Is
Yeah.
the thing. Like,
I
he
feel
didn't
like-
say a lot. He
Thank
kinda,
Yeah.
it was
I
like-
Thank
feel
you.
like you kind of know Lincoln.
Because-
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You
Lincoln
kind of
had some
feel-
pizzazz. He was,
Yeah.
at a play.
Washington's stoic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you kind of, I feel like Nate's the definitive George Washington.
Yeah, at this
right?
point
think
in
so.
media, I don't know.
That'd be
enough-
great if
I-
it was a serious biopic when Nate
turns into
Bargatze
like, yeah.
he win an Academy Award.
Yeah. They go off a sketch. He goes, once I saw it,
That's him.
who was going to believe?
Who else?
What about,
Beat
they go,
out Tom Hanks.
yeah, Tom Hanks. He goes, Daniel Day-Lewis said he'd come back for this. And he goes, no.
Nate's
no,
got to do
I
it.
just-
He wrote the sketch alone.
Yeah, he wrote the sketch alone.
Yeah, the Oscar's not for performance. The Oscar's for writing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Adapt a screenplay of your own sketch.
Yeah.
It's a clean sweep.
It's a clean.
So how did this sketch play on Wednesday? Besides the sort of like seemingly it's too in the weeds with too many examples.
I'd say
did not-
infield double or a single.
Oh no, it was it was not good.
it was
not-
mildly amusing.
Yeah.
You could tell that there were enough good jokes that it was like
That it could work.
it could work, but it wasn't like a heater at the table.
No.
No.
And I think we all got a little worried about it. Not worried, but it was like, I believe in this idea. It'll, obviously there's no costumes, there's no set, there's none of the like the pageantry
Yeah.
that surrounds this very stupid idea that makes it funnier.
Just a lot of facts written out.
Just a lot of facts.
When you look at the script,
Yeah.
you're like, this is just someone stating facts. Why is this funny?
Very few punchlines.
With a few like Liberty
yeah.
metaphors intertwined in there.
I think that, but like my act is kind of. If you read my act, it would, a lot of it would be like, well, that doesn't.
I think that's where we were.
Yeah. Like
going like,
look
Nate
at
can
it
get
now.
a laugh
Yeah.
just saying like,
Yeah.
so I went to the grocery store. Like, and that's a huge, like, you're able to do that with your cadence and just how when the audience goes along with you. And it was like, I think they'll go along with it for this one, but you can't tell. You just never know.
It definitely did not go good. And it was not leading to.
I said double. You're like,
It goes double. It goes yeah.
Foul ball. Full whip.
Foul ball. I got like a hit where you think I thought it was a foul, but it was right inside.
like
and they just tossed it to me.
Yeah.
They tagged me at home plate. And they go, well, I didn't know I should run. I thought that was a foul. It's real embarrassing. Yeah.
Hit the chalk.
dribbler.
I think you got it in though, right? In the meeting.
I did. I don't know where you.
Yeah, that's the next question.
We're not. Oh,
We're at what, because I believe you were the one who pushed for it when Lauren was like, not sure if it should go to the next round.
Our hero.
yeah.
You're George Washington.
I think I go, sure,
fought?
Mikey got something.
For Liberty.
Yes, it was. So after that, table read, Thursday we shot that. So Friday, we were getting fitted still for everything. Right? Everything was like acting like it was going to go. It wasn't like it was getting cut then.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And so it was.
we cut after dress.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you're still unsure. So I guess the question
And
is.
it was dead last, I believe, at dress.
Yeah.
no one
Do
had
we
to-
want to wait for dress?
Yeah, let's wait to dress. We
Okay.
got Thursday. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday day we'll go
All
through.
right. So we're at dress.
So we're at,
Sorry.
we're at rewrite.
Are we at air?
We're
No, we're
Thursday.
not at air?
We're,
Oh, okay.
we're Thursday. We're
Sorry.
Thursday/Friday/Friday, Saturday day.
Rewrites.
Anyway, so it seems like the major changes was to move it out of like a joke machine into like a sketch that has characters that are moving almost. Would that be fair? It seemed like
They're not moving much.
Not moving.
there's
physically.
just a
There's
dynamic.
one character moving.
right.
Because I think, like, when I think of the sketch, the things that I think make it work is not just, like, the facts, but I think the line, the soldier goes, how many liters are in a gallon, sir? And he says, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
That sort of,
Right.
like, that game of him, there just be parts where he's like, there's no answer to that, I feel like, is the
Yeah.
thing that allows it to, like, oh, this is a specific person, not just, for some reason, George Washington is saying these facts about things.
Nobody knows, usually followed by a shoulder pat.
Pat on the
tap.
shoulder
yeah.
and a move. Just moving on to someone else. I mean, really, that I feel like a lot of that stuff was in there. It was just taking the weaker jokes out and getting the table to pitch better ones that could and luckily they came through in a big way with a couple
Talked about
really good ones.
football.
Do you want to give anyone any credit?
I don't remember.
It was all Nate.
Well, no, we're.
I'm gonna take a page from
yeah.
Nate's book
Yeah,
and say
we
we
did
did
it
it all
all
alone.
The
I
rewrite
truly don't
table on the
remember.
9th floor,
Yeah.
that was where it was.
On the second one, Mike DiCenzo helped
That is
a
true,
lot.
yeah. On the second one, Mike DiCenzo.
But the first
joined in.
one, I do not remember the table. I remember sitting there and the football thing coming out of it.
Yeah.
Did we block on Thursday as well? Because sometimes you'll block a sketch the same day you rewrite it, which is a little. I feel like it was on Thursday because it wasn't that complicated. Sometimes some of the easier ones, staging wise, block on Thursday.
I do remember feeling a lot better about it when they were like, "Oh, it's going to be on home base," and I was like, "Oh,
Yes.
that's great," because then Nate's right in front of everyone. You know,
Yeah.
he has
However-
the audience right there.
I feel like we had needed to add in blocking some moves for Nate,
Some crosses and
some crosses, and by like the third time you do it, you're like, I don't know. I think this is funny, right?
Yeah.
Well, the crosses were because everybody's just in the same
Sitting
spot,
there, and you're
I'm
like-
like having to, and I'm crossing over, and you're trying to do everything. Then you're like, well, I got to tap him, and so there's it. I mean, when you look at it, it's crazy because you're like, yeah, dude, you're not
It's
moving,
easy.
but you're in your head, you're like, all right, and they're like, now you're gonna. They wrote cross on the cue cards, so I would know.
Just for those who don't know, you said the idea of home base. Can you explain the sort of stages of
home base.
SNL?
I mean, they kind of cram sets in wherever they can, but home base is, where the monologue happens, the band behind them. But
Weekend Update is on home base. It's
Yeah.
kind of the center stage, so to speak, right?
yeah.
So it really feels like a performance, because sometimes you'll be
It's where you do the monologue.
Yeah.
sometimes you'll be under the bleachers and people can kind of see you, but they're mostly watching the monitors. So on this one, you're kind of doing a play almost.
Yeah.
I always thought one of the cool things I heard was the cowbell sketch. It's like where they shot that was way in the corner, like this small area. So it's this crazy legendary sketch that was most of the audience in the room couldn't even see it because they were so. I don't know like with 20 people could probably see it because it was just so far back.
Yeah.
So I thought that was neat. Like, because I don't know why you just think, I don't know. You just think everything's going to be right in the middle. And then you get there and you're like, oh, no, this was like ducked out.
The first Wayne's World I heard too was really. I don't
like
even
backstage,
I don't think we even use that anymore.
No,
it's like
next to the music
deep
stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
What were the notes for the to build out the sketch beyond the words, the music, the costume, the wig?
Music was always there since Table.
Music was there from Table.
We used the song from Glory at Table, which is, what is it, end credits?
Yeah, it's like the
I
Glory
love it.
end credit
Yeah.
song.
It's very.
So they had to find
goosebumps.
something like that.
Yeah.
And they did an incredible job.
I did watch Glory, one of my first movies. My dad
so
actually
good.
showed us Glory. I couldn't watch anything.
Glory?
We could watch Glory.
You're gonna watch Glory, son.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like Private Ryan.
I don't think I ever really made it to that.
Just Glory.
But I was like, out of all the stuff I was not allowed to see, some reason, out of the gate, Glory was like,
Dude, I remember a guy's head exploding.
within 5
I remember that
seconds.
too.
Yeah,
he
you're
turns
like-
back and he's like,
Yeah.
"Come on!" And then his cannonball just
I do too.
blasts his head off.
I was watching that movie a ton as a kid.
Glory's the only movie.
Glory-
That's the secret.
That's
of
the
this
secret of the sketch. Yeah, that's why I kind of knew what to do. It was in me. It was like once I heard that music, I go, "Oh, this is my childhood."
The only movie this kid can see is Glory. Guys want to watch Glory?
I wouldn't be allowed to watch Wayne's World.
Not even Home Alone.
I couldn't watch
nothing.
Wayne's World, but I could watch Glory.
What's your favorite Christmas movie? Glory.
Glory. Where were we?
costume.
Oh yeah, the
wigs.
costume. I mean, we just
Costume
told
department.
him.
Tom Broker and Company.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think we just
Always great.
we said they should be dirty. They've been in Valley Forge for a while. It's tough times. But
Sometimes
they're
it's like,
so
who has a
good.
hat? Who doesn't? Do you want to hold your hat? That was the biggest, I feel like. But no, I feel like the set and costumes were always fantastic
Yeah.
from the jump.
So here we are, Saturday night. Now
Ooh,
we're,
we got there.
we got
the
there.
music is playing. Cue the saxophone.
The dress music is playing? Are
Yeah,
we
the
at dress?
music,
Okay.
Yeah. So you're not still. We're at 9 o'clock. What time is dress?
8?
8?
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Feeling good. The only thing I knew from what was the TV show that was
Studio
Maxi
60?
Free? Yeah. I would always every moment of SNL I would go I've watched that show. And so I told Lauren that I go, is this all like studios? Every time we were sitting up, we'd go to Lauren's office. I'm like, dude, this is like Studio 60. He goes, he has the curtain out.
Lauren, how come
I go, your curtain just like it was on Studio 60, dude. I go, that's
How
crazy.
come you're sitting and not
Yeah.
giving all notes while walking down a long corridor?
That was my only gauge to SNL.
The idea that you visiting the White House, be like, this is just like the West Wing.
Dude, this is crazy.
The others.
This is like when what's that blow up? It wouldn't be the West Wing. Yeah, not it'd be the
White House.
Oh, White House
down.
Fall?
White House down.
Yeah.
Fall. Yeah, I've
a
watched
few.
that a
Olympus
few
as well.
times. I moved
Now
on
you
to
watch
that.
Glory.
I go Glory, then
Glory,
White House.
White House down.
White House down.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They both have an Americana
Yeah.
vibe to them.
So, I think 8 o'clock we feel, good. Everybody's coming to your sketches. I mean, being that first week, you're trying to gather what's going on, and you're still trying to, kind of keep your head above water. And then, but it is in there. It's when you go up to pick it, what we're going to do for dress rehearsal, I remember it was on the thing of out. and
Yeah,
versus
the
in, it was
maybes.
the maybe.
Oh yeah, if you have
And
time.
so it was the maybe.
The
and so we're going
maybes.
through and he's saying like, what I say, what you don't realize, you do have a lot of more say than you think you do at SNL. So, part of me, I'm like, y'all just do it. I don't want to ruin your 50 years of television. Because it's like, well, because I watched Studio 60. And I'm like, I got some ideas.
Studio 60, they do not have.
I go, this would not fly in Studio 60.
Absolutely not.
And so it was on the maybes. And I just remember Lauren, he goes, what do you think? He looked back at me and I was like, I like that Washington sketch. And he goes, all right. And he put it last. He knew that that was the sketch. It was mostly me. Mm-hmm. And he was like, all right, we can do it last at dress rehearsal. So that's kind of, it's one of those, I don't know if I said that, maybe it would have just because there was so much commitment already into it.
I don't think so.
But I could see it. Because
I
the
don't think
thing
there
was,
a
getting
lot
up.
of heat around it throughout the week.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the studio's like, oh no, we'll dump this here. We'll see what happens.
I think it was like getting into the Washington stuff too. It was like just that was the biggest costume thing. So it was like you could just cut out a lot of stuff. Yeah. Like if that one works, you're like, well, that's the biggest kind of, you got to jump into all this kind of stuff. Right. Everybody's got to change and all this.
Had that going for it, that it was a good look.
It was a good
Which
look.
they're always considering,
Yes.
on a variety show.
Yeah.
You want stuff to look. You don't want everything in an office, So it had
living
that.
room.
It was at the maybes though, and I remember going because I do remember thinking like they said I could say stuff, but do I say something?
Is this the time in which
this
I
is
say
the
this?
time? And so I was like, I might as well. And I go, and he said, what do you? I go, I like the Washington one, and he goes, all right, and he put it over to that.
Oh,
other
thank
one.
you. You said I could say stuff, and I said stuff.
Right.
And then you do it at dress, and you're vindicated.
Oh yeah, it destroyed. It's murdered address because I'm not a good auditioner, so I never got stuff. So
You're
like a
give
table
me a
read
crowd.
with no, I need I'm good with the crowd. So I think that's why I was never worried about it because I was like in my head I just knew just let me get in front of a crowd, it's going to be great. It's with no laughter and no anything. It's uncomfortable to do this kind of timing. I'm so used to like stopping because of laughter and like playing with the rhythm of the crowd. So once we were able to do it there, I always felt pretty good about it just because I knew that. I was, I came from a show, doing a live show, going right back to a live show. So I was doing stand up and I was like, I just felt pretty good about it. So once we did it, I knew it was like not feeling great, but then, once we were in it, it was like, once it was over, it's like, well, that murdered.
Yeah, and it was pretty far down. Was it last?
It was
or
last.
Second to last? It was
No,
dead
it
last?
was dead last.
Dead last.
Wow, I thought it was like second.
And then it
But
got,
I think we too,
We like
and
being
Lauren
last,
also
though.
felt like once there's a crowd in here,
Yeah.
this will feel different.
yeah.
No one was like outright hating it.
Yeah,
I
Lauren-
just
I
say
feel
no one was
like-
like this thing sucks.
feel
But it
like
was like
Lauren
we don't know.
liked it
We'll
a
see.
lot.
Yeah.
We'll see.
He was just like, I feel like Lauren was like, hopefully we'll get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah, because it is like on paper, like we've said, very few like jokes, like traditional jokes.
Yeah.
It's all just attitude and how Nate plays it and stuff. So
Yeah, you also don't know if people will laugh. They might just be like,
they took
what
that
we
turn
do.
the second Nate goes our own system of weights and measures
Yeah.
and everyone laughed. It was like,
Here we
we're
go.
good.
Were
We're
you
good to
watching
go.
the one that aired? It is unbelievable. It's like the audience knew. It was like it was the
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
version of that. How hard they
And they're
laughed
like,
at the.
thank you.
Yeah.
Someone's bringing this up. It's so stupid what we do.
Did it change any between dress and air?
Not a
Maybe
lot.
we cut one little
Maybe.
thing
Little,
out.
yeah.
Like,
but it was pretty much the same, I
Yeah.
remember.
when something hits like
You don't wanna
that,
mess
you
with
yeah,
don't
it.
wanna
maybe,
mess with
it would have
too
been
much.
time, would have been the only thing. Yeah, maybe a line or something for time or whatever.
Yeah, I think we truly cut like one couplet out. Maybe.
Especially on air, I think one of the things that has really going for it, it's the first time I can think of where the host's monologue, if you essentially directly leads into what that sketch is about. Your monologue was about not knowing things and like not knowing history.
That was all on purpose, right?
Yeah, right. It's the first, like, literally, maybe in the history of the show, it did feel like almost like Chappelle's show, where he does a monologue about what the sketch would be.
That also helped it go good.
That
I
was all
straight
part
up
of the plan.
introduced it.
Yeah,
We're going to do
teamed
this
up.
George Washington thing later, guys.
Stick around.
Yeah, stick around.
Wonder what George Washington might have to say about that. I don't know.
Maybe
Stick
after
around,
this
maybe we'll
commercial,
find out.
Yeah.
we'll find out.
I think the
Who
thing
knows?
that also is in the costume, in the audience, is like, and it's also the same thing that happens with you, like when you're playing arenas, is like the contrast of the way you're talking and the nature of the situation keeps on getting heightened. So when it's on SNL, you're like, this is what they're doing. Like there is an added element of like, it is so silly that this is what the sketch is about. I think it was
Right. Yeah. It's what's so great about that show is like we look so good. The set is so well done. Like all of those components are so well executed that you can have fun with the dumbness of what it's about or being said. Like that part will always be so legit, all the other components to it.
So, Mikey and Streeter, you've been parts of some like the hottest live sketches of the last decade in terms of how they play.
Jesse.
It's a fact.
Stop. You flirt.
Stop that.
Close Encounters, David Pumpkins, Beavis and Butthead, many, many more. And I feel like it's
lot of
Warren
stinkers
words.
too.
but we're
Lot of
not talking about that. But even so, like I feel like it is also notable. It's in a decade where pre-tapes are seen as cooler, or it's easier to do pre-tapes, and I feel like y'all have made it a point of pride to do live sketches.
Yeah, when you get a live one to get
What is it about
some
live?
attention. Just because I feel like Higgins says there's no other place out there that does what SNL does, so it's able to produce something special and different. So if we can utilize this medium well to what it's like built for and what it can showcase unlike anything else, then you have the opportunity to do something really cool.
And I don't really like the live stuff. I like my pre-tapes a lot more. So
Listen, we love a good pre-tape.
Yes, you've done those.
We
Don't
love
get
our
us wrong.
trailers.
Higgins called when he called me before I got there, like to kind of. I mean, I always liked what he said. He goes, "It's this week. This is what you thought show business would be like."
yeah.
He's like, "That's what SNL is." And then and that was the best way. That really helped me wrap my, because that's what it felt like. You're writing something and then immediately going and trying it, or going out, and you everything gets solved in that 1 week, and then it's done, and you're like, forget it all, start over.
There's like showgirls and animals in the hallway.
Yeah.
It's not all.
We had animals.
It's the
we had
case.
that one. Yeah, we had one sketch. We had Noah sketch.
Bunch
or-
of kids.
Oh yeah,
Noah
the
sketch.
Noah's Ark one.
Oh.
Bunch of
Animals.
right?
Oh, the Noah's Ark one.
Che, I think it was that.
That was
Che's?
Chase, yeah. Completely forgot about that one.
What
That's
happened?
crazy.
That's what's hard when whoever writes the sketch, they're there, and you're like, I guess it's got to go. I feel bad for this. He goes, this
Sorry,
is the
brother.
host. You're just staring at he's like, I need the sketch to go. No, I'm joking. Che was,
Like this is another way in which you're like George Washington.
yes.
The burden of
I decide
being
their
late.
fates.
Yeah.
Oh, you played
Yeah.
Noah and George Washington at dress. That's so funny. I
Yeah.
completely forgot about
Yeah.
Noah's
Some
Ark.
real iconic
Yeah.
people.
So we talked earlier about how y'all two found each other or developed and your partnership made sense. Nate, what was it like for you coming into the show? You did not know them before this week, and then by the end of the week, they are able to figure out your voice and help translate it for you.
Yeah, I mean, I knew them in the scream of us doing comedy, being around. Especially Streeter was around. We were all doing stand up
In New
like
York.
in New York and
Streeter
forever.
knows everybody.
Yeah. Well, he
He
was
was like, oh yeah, I did stand up.
Because my name is weird. I think people.
Your name was weird, Streeter,
remember.
and Streeter. But you were like, you were the College Humor was like
Yeah.
a big thing, and so we always thought Streeter was better than all of us. And
Look how wrong you were selling out arenas.
Dubai.
no, but so we knew each other. It was you when you tell me about the messages we sent on
Yes.
Twitter, which I thought was
Yeah.
pretty funny.
It was like when I got hired on SNL as a writer, I think 2013 or 14. I saw that so I went to when I heard Nate was hosting, I went to go. I was like, let me message him. I haven't talked to him in years, because I stopped doing stand-up, so I wasn't around the scene anymore and stuff. And I was like, let me message him on Twitter and just say, like, hey, dude, congrats on SNL. And the last message I had was Nate sending one to me being like, congrats on SNL. I was like, look how perfect this is.
It kind of worked out together.
10 years later, I get
Wow.
to say it
Yeah.
right back. Yeah.
But
adorable.
yeah, so it was, and then the relief I think I felt, because I always would, I've always written my own stuff, so I was nervous about someone writing anything for me. But with the Washington sketch, and it shows to the writing, because that's everybody thinks I wrote it.
Yeah.
Because it just flowed so well with what I did. There was not, sometimes it's the sketches you might be like, let me say this, I'm not gonna say that. Like I wouldn't say that or blah blah. But the way they did it was, it like opened my eyes. It was like a relief to be like, oh, you don't have to come up with everything,
So I believe by the time the idea that you would host the second time came up, you had already started working together on what would become the Nashville the holiday special.
Yes.
Yeah, over
So
that summer.
so what were those conversations like? Was it immediate, like, oh, we need to do George back, or was it more like we can do it if there's an idea? How did that conversation
I
develop?
remember over the summer talking about various areas for another
Yeah.
George Washington,
Sending like little jokes back and forth.
or just like,
but always with like, if Nate wants to
yeah,
do it,
the text would just be like 18 to vote, but 16 to drive, 18 to vote and die for the country, and look at porn, but 16 to drive and 21 to vote.
21.
No, 18. What is it?
18 to vote,
It was
21
21 to
to
drink and gamble.
Yeah.
But so
25
that kind
to
of
rent
thing.
a car. Like that, just
30.
kind of
Yeah.
looking for stuff. I remember the kindergarten joke from the second one came out of that. I remember texting
Yeah, I
that joke
remember.
at
I
one
remember
point.
you talking about the.
But we were
kindergarten.
kind of
Yeah.
focused on the like getting the Christmas special,
Yeah.
sort of wrapping our heads around what that would
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, that was like 6 months, which
Yeah.
there ends up. When does this come out?
This will come out after the it airs. So
After the Christmas.
So did
yeah.
you write the Christmas version of this before you wrote the second George Washington?
We had like a version.
Version
We had a
of
version
the
of it.
Nativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're like, there's a lot of funniness about how nothing about Christmas is related to Jesus in any way, and it's just all like German, Scandinavian, like solstice tradition, that they kind of got packaged.
Before Santa.
Yeah. But it all, when you
became
grow
king.
up with it, you don't really think about it. You're just like, of course we do
Yeah.
the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? That's
We'll
awesome.
put a nativity set up
Yeah.
Yeah.
on the mantle.
Yeah.
There's our Jesus stuff.
So we were like, oh, this would be perfect for Nate, for the Christmas special to
Yeah,
to
from
kinda
the
look at
beginning,
that.
that was
kind
something
of
where, like,
from the jump.
we
we're
have
like,
this.
we have
Yeah.
that, and we know it'll play in front of an audience.
Mm-hmm.
The only question was, would it play in front of that big of an audience? I think, but
You have Nate with angel wings. Come on.
I mean,
Nice curly
Yeah.
blonde
Felt pretty
angel
good
hair.
about
We're
that one.
in.
So then what was your thinking when they asked if you want to do George again?
second time?
The second time.
I do remember saying a couple of times, I was like, I don't know.
Maybe.
I was like, I don't know. I had a buddy that goes, do not do another one. And I thought of it, and then when you do, you're like, I don't know, man. Like, because it was before the nativity scene.
yeah.
And so before we actually taped the
Yeah.
nativity, I was kind of nervous. You're just like, you're like, that one went so crazy. I mean, that was like probably with the biggest, if not the biggest thing I've done in my career, is the George Washington sketch. Like as a thing that
Yeah, it's
people
huge.
come up to me it's all anybody said. I had
Yeah.
a guy dressed like George Washington at a show.
Really?
I text these guys.
Wow.
I have to constantly text these guys. I feel like you got shoes. I sent
Yes, I got the
someone painted
shoes.
shoes for us.
Oh my god.
And then so we were on his college game day was like George Washington.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like it kept being so much stuff that I would like text him because I would get so much of it on the road or whatever. So you're just like, I don't want to blow it up. It's like we kind of did it. So I was pretty nervous at first, but then when I read what they did, it felt very different enough. And I think I then got it that I was like, it's not about what the the jokes are. It's just about the George Washington character, where you're like, it's more people just want to see that character come back.
Yeah.
The what we're talking about is fun and funny, but it's really the rhythm of the character.
I feel like at SNL too, there's a tendency after you do something that goes well, you're like, we can't do another one. We have to maintain the legacy. And then as a little time goes by, you're immediately like, yeah, we'll do another one.
It's like,
we'll run this into the ground so hard.
As long as we've got jokes for it, we'll keep
We'll
doing
do it. We'll do it.
Well, I do think the second one, I think the key partly is, when George Washington is giving his speech, the way he phrases is, and to do our own thing with the English language.
Yeah.
Which was like, one, famously, David Pumpkins is his own thing.
It's his own
so you're like,
thing.
oh,
There's
this is
a common
our little bag of
thread.
tricks.
his own thing. But it does show that, like, the second version, you're like, oh, this is a character sketch this whole time. It's not like an observational comedy. It's like he's doing it. And I think, how do you approach to have it have more turns so it doesn't feel like you're just like doing the same rhythm of the sketch?
Right. I remember
Well, like
we
the
talked
James
about
thing.
that intro.
Yes, that.
To go back, we talked about how to anchor it with a very
Like, what's the thesis?
yes,
here?
the thesis statement.
You know.
I remember talking
Because that
about it.
changed later. I forget what the original. It wasn't to do our own thing with the English language. It was something like
Are we our words or
words and
something
numbers or something.
Yes.
Whatever. It was like that. And
Because
it was
we
a little,
talked about the dozen things, so we're like, let's just make it language
yeah.
based.
But then adding like the James thing where Nate tells James to like get out of the boat and like cutting the music. We're like, oh, that's different. That's a new move that's not in the first one. Like that's how I feel like
Get
you can
out.
get a recurring sketch or whatever, as long as you're changing it enough that there's still something surprising.
It was fun to get out on that boat. Although the very first boat we used in blocking
Not good.
was so small. Nate was like, "For liberty."
Knees
like-
up to your
Yeah.
chin when you sit down.
Like getting out of a movie theater and you're down and you're like, excuse me, getting past people's legs. It was ridiculous.
I
Then they
remember
made it bigger.
the boat thing. That's the only thing I did think about playing is when I went to talk to James to get him out of the boat. I was like, I'm gonna just do my regular voice. Even I'm essentially doing it, but I was like, I'm gonna try to do the most regular voice
Get out.
and just be like, get out, man. Like I was trying to like just talk like myself, in that
great.
moment. Yeah,
Like, he
yeah.
drops
Yeah, it was like
to
just
Washington. He's just so mad.
Yeah.
This
He goes,
guy
"All right,
wants
man,
to
get
know
out."
what's in a
Yeah.
hot dog.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
just like,
I just remember being so, because our lines are just the setups, and so you don't want to mess up a setup line. And I just remember liking the mattress joke so much that I didn't want to like flub. And I just remember like trying to enunciate so much for, and what will we do on holidays, sir? So why buy a mattress, of course. So I feel like
that's
there's
a Mike DeChanzo joke, I believe.
Yep,
I think
buy
he
a
threw that one in.
mattress. And I know it's Bowen, myself, James, and Keenan has some kind of little attitude.
Keenan
to
gets to
play.
put a little mustard
We're
on
very
stuff.
kind
You
of
guys don't.
forgettable parts, but still you take seriously kind of nailing the setup so that Nate can.
Yeah, I think the Keenan part is the other part that heightens clearly, where it's
Yeah.
like more specific, and
He's
you
great.
force George Washington to interact, but also be dismissive.
Just
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
ignoring his.
It is
his-
interesting that the sketches end with Keenan.
Yep, both of them. I think
I
they'll
mean,
all have to.
Yeah.
Can you name a better
I think
person
they-
to end
yeah.
a sketch with?
That's
I
how,
mean,
Begin
that's how
and end
SNL's
with
going to
Keenan.
end. It's going to end with
Should be
Keenan.
talking about
It
that.
all runs through Keenan. Yeah.
There's it's like if you need an ending, you can't think of it, you can always just go cut to Keenan or Keenan enters and you're good to go.
I mean,
You'll know it'll
Keenan-
have life.
Keenan yelling at Nate as Nate kind of doesn't clarify his point and walks off like head held high to dream about the future, and Keenan
Excuse
getting
me.
angry and yelling
yeah.
after him. I mean, that's a great way to go.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Perfect.
If when Nate hosts again, will you do George Washington? Have you thought about it?
Discussed where we would put him.
I would say it's likely if we can come up with it.
You know what? We probably will.
I think people would be bummed out. if
They'd be
we
very
didn't.
surprised.
I would be
Yeah.
bummed.
I think after the second one, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of a good.
I might be in a
third
different place, though.
installment.
Depends if I'm on there I'm doing serious acting by then. And I go,
Dude, it got really serious. I think he's going for an Emmy.
yeah, it's not fun at all.
But I'm trying to think of a good like third movie in a franchise. Return
It would
of the
have to
Jedi,
be,
maybe?
yeah.
We want
It has to be
we
something.
want a good
Yeah.
third one.
But the problem with that is then when you're doing the fourth one, you're like,
Whenever
by the
you
fourth one,
want
they're like, oh, okay, well, the fourth,
Fourth one, I think we have to be done.
fourth one, you
I say
kind of
that.
reboot.
Yeah,
Reboot.
John
and you
Adams.
Put him back
John
in
Adams.
the
Go.
and then you just then it runs forever. 'Cause you're
Then
just
you
gonna
get-
each
give it
president-
Maybe he's on his
We're also
deathbed.
following the course of the war, so
Yeah, I mean, then he's president. Then eventually, I think the last one would be that letter he wrote where he says he's not going to run for president again.
Right.
But here's my dreams for my predecessor or
Oh,
my
yeah.
successor
Yeah.
and what I want the
That would be the
country to
last
be.
one. It's hard to know when that would be,
In
but
that
that's
early White House. Where was the early? It wasn't.
York.
It was in New York, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. You'd be so proud. Exterior, New York.
honestly, if you
Yeah.
want to go see it, we're really close to where
The
it
original
was.
White
Oh,
House.
yeah?
We're real
Did they
close
call
to
it the White House?
Federal Hall on
when it
Wall
started?
Street? No,
Or was it just?
George Washington's house.
It was just
I
like
think he just lived
the
on
government.
Broadway.
It was just like
somewhere.
the government. That's the government.
The government's gotten a lot bigger since then, I believe.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
and there's the part. I'm just thinking about the plot of Hamilton, and there's the part where they they move it to Washington as a compromise,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
which is why the financials are here anyway.
It's
Mikey's
exciting.
eyes just glazed.
He's just
over.
like he's
like,
literally
I'm
playing the
also on the tail end of being sick, so that's why I want to get that out there. That's why I look absolutely.
So Mikey
awful.
hasn't been fun.
I'm not fun.
Everybody.
He's been an
And I-
absolute drag.
and if
feel
I
like
get
Nate
Nate
and I are having
sick-
a good time.
Hey, yeah, that's what happened, Jesse.
Mikey, preparing.
Can you write an article about me, Jesse? Just a glowing review of me as a person, please. Thank you.
Sure. Well, this is actually in this question is a glowing review.
Oh,
And your
You've
legacy.
been so nice throughout this whole thing, dude. Seriously,
Well,
you're awesome.
I was thinking about your run on the show and your legacy as an SNL cast member, and I do
About
think
me.
I think it's unique that there are big sketches and big characters that you have performed, but I don't think there's another cast member that has so many historic sketches that you wrote and were supporting.
right.
How do you combine those things? How do you think about that when you think about your time on the show?
I don't know. I kind of lead, I feel like, writing, and that's kind of what I think about and then try to input me
Yeah.
in there somewhere. Sometimes it's a more fun role or sometimes it's lesser, but usually lead with the idea. Sometimes I'll have kind of a mode or an attitude or a character type I want to play, and we'll kind of write around that, and I owe a lot to this man right here.
If there was a Mikey
Streeter
DVD,
Seidell.
the best of DVDs, if we brought them back,
It'll
would
just be Beavis and Butthead for 82 minutes.
and then sketches you wrote and be like, and Mikey wrote this one.
Oh yeah, he wrote this one.
I'll say this about Mr. Mikey Day, because I don't know if this is out there. He might be the only cast member ever who's written a sketch for another cast member that he is not in.
Oh yeah, which one? The
For
couple?
the role playing
Oh, with
one
Melissa.
with Melissa.
Right. We tried
You're
to put
just
me in
not
at
in it,
table.
but you just
We're like,
wrote it.
can't crowbar my way into
A
this.
generous talent over there.
And
beautiful.
for Washington, had so much fun with Nate and credit him endlessly for bringing that to life, because I don't think anyone else could have pushed it over the finish line.
Yeah,
like
that
Nate.
would that we would not be talking about
It
it.
wouldn't
Nate
be
going, I'd
what
like
it
to try
was."
that Washington one.
It would have been a thing that we did, but it wouldn't be what I think it became. And
I will also say one more thing.
Sure.
Nate also got a second long simmering idea of ours that we always loved over the finish line, which was
one?
the golf tape.
Oh,
yeah.
the golf tape.
We've
the
been
second
wanting to
time
do
we
that for
hosted.
years. We always talk about that Randy Johnson exploding a bird.
Yeah.
thing. We're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's such a like when you see that, you're just like, oh my God. And we're like, oh, what about?
Yeah.
I mean, at least 7-8 years. And
Yeah.
Nate's such an incredible golfer. And we're like, would you maybe want to?
Yeah.
We were like,
Totally got it.
That was great. I did not. I'm always sensitive to golf because it's like I'll get someone will say something golf because I like golf, and you're like, yeah, dude, but like not everybody's into golf. So I always think someone wants the idea, then you're like, who's gonna care? But then that one did
You were
crazy
so
too.
funny in that.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
what?
fun.
Did I hit that bird?
Yeah.
So funny.
Every time Nate comes by, he just like helps us get one of the things we love over the finish line. And
well, I feel like that's like the cast, the hosts that people love are the ones that are like, I want my hope is that when I host, I can do that for the writers.
They did the water slide was
another
with
one.
Michael Longfellow. They said they tried that one. That was one that it was funny because that one I was like, man, I want that one because the idea is just so funny that if someone died, would you just push them outside? So it's very funny to talk about the idea, and it's just delicate how you do it.
Yeah.
And then I remember being up in the office with Lauren, and we're going through everything after dress rehearsal, and all I'm thinking about is the water slide. So he looks at me, and I was like, "What about water slide?" He goes, "Water slide's in, don't worry about it." And then he's like, "All right." And then so
that might have been the first one. It might have been like Washington.
Yeah, he was like, "Just move it." He was like, "All right."
Dad talking to his king. We got you, Nintendo. Relax.
Relax. Yes, it was exactly that.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
On the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast, Seth likes to say that his time with Lonely Island was an golden era. Mm-hmm. Streeter, as a head writer, would you call your era
in the shadow of it?
Do you feel like this? Yeah. Do you feel like do you feel like this is an golden era? Do you feel that way?
I mean, I do. It's not really for me to say. I mean,
Seth says it.
I see.
You're allowed to say
it's easy to say when it's years later and you can look back on everything. Like, in the moment, every week, I feel like there's something, one or two things. I'm like, that's classic. That's fantastic.
To contribute anything to the show's legacy that people like is fantastic.
And I just see how many talented people are writing there and performing there, and so it's I feel like, I don't know if I was like golden era, certainly, but only time
from 40
will tell.
to 50. I mean, 40th was such a big thing, and so then now you're at the 50th. It's I think it's SNL's just someone that just before I got on it, but you would still see SNL kind of everywhere, and then so I agree. I think it's at a place because you're having some of this stuff go really viral. With social media, you're having a lot of stuff go really, really viral, and so that's and it's like I said, like live sketches. It's live. It's something it's the last old school. There's nothing like that on TV anymore.
Yeah.
And so the Christmas special, the idea of that was to bring something like that back, but there's just not anything. There's everybody that works there has been there forever, and it's really feels like a family when you go in there, and that's not. And I think that shows through because you're competing with no one really, because there's no one out there.
No one's truly.
No one's even trying. If one other person tried, it'd be.
Nate Night Live Saturdays at 11:30.
I'm clean, so I do mine at noon. Mine comes on at noon,
But still, it's not
still
Saturday
afternoon.
Nate Live.
Saturday Nate Live noon.
It's kind of for other people to look back on and label things when you're in the mix of it. And I've been there 11 seasons now, from 40 to 50. Like, you're just in the shit, and you're just trying to put out the best show you can every week. And then, like, I don't know, 20 years from now, maybe I'll look back and compare it to the era that came before.
If I could go back on that podcast, I'd say yes. It was the golden era.
We didn't know how bad it was going to get. But we've been there through some weird stuff, man. Like, COVID was, just like
3 elections.
Yeah, but I'm sure anyone who's been there for a while can say that about their time as well. So.
Nate, when we last spoke, we were in the offices for your pilot in 2019, and we discussed how you thought about your career beyond stand-up, which is your number one. And I was wondering how does your success hosting SNL make you think about the work you want to do beyond stand-up?
The pilot didn't go.
I didn't.
I blamed it on you always. Jessica is always Jessica.
He set you up to
He
fail.
knew it, dude. He knew it.
He interviewed me too early.
Yeah, he interviewed me too early. One of the questions was, when this doesn't go, what do you think you will be doing? And I go, well, Jesse.
I saw it. It was awful.
Yeah.
So what's next?
No, I think, I love television. I still think television is still something people want to do. I just don't think there's stuff being put out for it. And movies the same way. I think people want to go to movies. And so now it's about doing that. We did this variety show, got a few movies trying to kind of plan for. And so I started a company, Nate Land, and the idea of it is just to build a trust with an audience that they can just come and it's not. I'm trying to appeal to everybody, so it's like we're not trying to pick sides one way or the other, and people come for different reasons, and just be entertainment for them. And so now I see it. I mean, it's weirdly, thankfully, I didn't get that pilot. Because I'm much happier with where I'm at now because I think I have a lot more control and I can go in a direction that I feel I want to go in versus I don't know if I would have had that if I would have got it that way.
So now it's time for the final segment of the show. It's called the laughing round. It's like a lightning round because it's a comedy podcast.
Go take your shirt off and compliment the person to your left.
That's a good idea. Mikey's got a great body.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not taking my shirt off.
This is just for him to feel
Just
good.
Mikey takes his shirt off for this
Got
segment.
abs.
Well, now it's a video podcast, so if anyone does want to take his shirt off, this would be a great time.
This would be the time to do it, Mikey. Go ahead.
Yeah. When it's audio,
Screw it.
When I interviewed you for audio, it wasn't necessary, but it was appreciated. You all can answer these questions. You all can pass, but they're shorter questions, easy questions. Do you have a favorite joke? Your street joke or dad joke?
That's
Pass. I can't remember jokes. I know I have one, but I have to pass.
I can do a golf one.
That
That's
counts.
a dumb one. Anytime someone tees the ball up and then when they set the driver down and it just knocks the ball off, you go, all right, that's one. And it's like that's the first stroke. It's not. You let them re-tee it, but not even an original joke. It's a very hacky joke on the course, but it's one that it's very fun.
That
I go,
kills,
that's one.
right?
You go, that's one.
Has to
Yeah.
kill. I have a joke like that. Okay.
Yeah.
At a Christmas, when someone gives, family Christmas or whatever, someone gives someone like a really nice present. I like to say that's from all of us.
Oh.
And that does well within
That's
the
a
family.
great one too. Yeah, that's from all of us.
All the family all laughs.
wow. That's fantastic.
That's a good one. You can try that out.
Yeah.
Is there a joke or sketch you wish you could steal? You wish it's a different dimension where everything's exactly the same, but that sketch is yours or joke is yours.
Do you know what you're gonna say?
I know exactly what I'm going to say.
I was gonna that song from that dude on
Are you
Instagram.
talking about Have You Checked Your Butthole?
Yeah, have you checked your butthole? I don't forget his name, but he's very talented.
Like an Australian.
It's a song
YouTube guy.
about it's a what does he say? Just a funny thing to say to someone when you've lost something and you're stressed out visibly. And you say, have you checked your butthole?
It's a song about how this guy's go-to thing whenever someone's stressed out and is looking for something is for him to say, have you checked your butthole?
And they get
how they all
annoyed.
hate it. Everyone gets
I
mad
know
at
that's
them.
an odd thing to say.
I would steal Mitchell and Webb's Are We the Baddies? One of my favorite sketches ever.
Oh, wow. Yes. I mean, there's so many.
But that
I don't
one's
even know where
mine.
to start.
That one's yours.
That one's mine, too.
Is there a joke you wish you'd steal?
Dove Davidoff has a joke about relationships that's really, really, it's just the way he gets into it. And he talks about, I think he did it on Tonight Show. His wife, it's a lighthouse. His wife called it a life house. And then they get in a whole argument about it. And he's like, but it's called a light, you got to see, it's just his performance of it. And it's just, yeah, that's one that it's like, so relatable of something that that was one that you're like, man, that's awesome.
Do you have a favorite time you bombed?
There's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, okay, a ton of times. I bombed on a cruise ship.
Ooh.
Yep, and then it didn't go good, and I was
It
riding.
didn't go
I was
good.
riding in the elevator to go. I was in the elevator on top of the water. Really sounds like you made it.
Crazy what they can
And
do.
and I'm sitting in the elevator. I got my hat on, and the guy just goes, "Man, that Southern comic was awful." And I'm just standing next to him, and I saw his wife like bump him. He's like, "What?" He goes, "What?" And I just got off, whatever the next floor was, because it was like this was
Wow.
not fun. Not fun at all.
Wow.
My favorite time I bombed was the second time I did stand-up. I had to follow Chris Rock, who had dropped in And so I thought I was obviously cut. And they were like, I didn't realize there's always a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
When that happens, who's like, they got to drop the checks.
Why continue?
So they were like,
yeah.
all right, kid, get on up there. And it was,
Hi, that was cool, right?
and they were like, if you can do like 10 minutes so we make sure we get all the checks. So I didn't even have 10 minutes. So it was brutal.
Wow, I mean, some bombs. There was a sketch we tried to do called Bebo. Was it Bebo? Bebo.
Yeah, Bebo.
Which was like the end of E.T., but the mom. It was like everyone
Bebo's
saying
been
goodbye.
hooking up with everyone.
Yeah, it was like very emotional. Like, bye, I'll miss you. And then bye. And then the mom goes, I'll miss you. And then they just start making out. People were enjoying it, but when we did it, the audience was just like, no, thank you. Dead silent.
I thought you were going to say
Alive?
Pokemon.
Oh, that's a good one. That was recent.
That was recent. Yeah.
We were doing, it was Josh Brolin and Heidi.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin was like, and Heidi had just started dating, so he's like, I want to get into what your kids are into so I can relate to them. So they like Pokemon, I'm going to watch. So he starts watching it, and we're dressed as Pokemon, just like made up characters within that universe. And it's like, she's like, oh, I hate the American dubbed over like anime. And we were just doing, because the sounds are very like, very like sound heavy.
Sure.
And so we were doing that, but committing so hard in the first time, because it's like if the first time we do it, they're not into it. It's like, oh no, this is it for 3 minutes.
Yeah, there's nothing else in this sketch besides Mikey going,
Huh? And it was just like, let's go. Audience.
silence.
Would you ever just stop?
I think 2 people went. I think there should be a red button that's like jettison. We're in the middle. You can just go.
Just bail.
So
Yeah.
you push it, right? And then under the bleachers where Lauren is, his button lights up. And if he agrees and is cool with thing, he
Yeah.
can push it as well, and the sketch ends. That's my thought.
Yeah. Then everybody gets, you're like, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about
And
that,
the
everyone.
crowd's like, all
Yeah.
right, well, we saw them. They tried something with a
If
bomb.
you push the button and Lauren doesn't, you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Why didn't you push
punishing
it?
you.
I believe in
your
it.
anime. You're like, huh? Did you push the button, huh?
Please push
push
the
the
button.
Do you have a short story of an interaction with a legendary comedian, living or dead, you're willing to share? Any of you?
What the? Aren't we towards the end? A story?
A short story.
Short one.
A short story.
One, Mikey.
I mean, I have I don't know, though. Living or... Like an interaction, you said? Okay.
Yeah, y'all. I did a corporate gig recently with Steve Martin, Martin Short.
Wow.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, it was very random. It was, Neil Young, Neil, is it Neil Young? Yeah.
Neil Young,
Yeah. It was us doing a show. It was at this lady's house. They built this stage outside. It was crazy, the stuff that she set up. And it was like kind of put together pretty last minute. And so we all just like, we go to her house. So she had her house, and then she had the stage stuff set outside. And then I go downstairs, and then it was like Martin Short and Steve Martin, and they're just in there. And so getting to talk to Steve Martin about like a lot of like stuff that he said, where it was like you got to become undeniable and things he talked about in stand up.
Yeah.
So just get to talk to him about that, and then Martin Short with one of my favorite movies is Pure Luck.
Oh, my God, I love
Yeah.
Pure Luck.
It's great.
Where he does the straw at the
Just straw
nose.
off the- yeah. It's the fun.
I've never heard another human being besides my dad when we were saying it talk about Pure Luck.
I love it. I've mentioned, yeah.
That was amazing.
I go,
Danny Glover.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's and so I get to ask him about that, and then going up there and getting the the pictures and seeing Neil Young, then talking to Neil Young after, and like it was just like a pretty wild night of just legendary. That's the first time I got to meet anybody, any of them.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they mentioned the George Washington skit, so it was nice to be able to meet them where I didn't feel like I was having to like they knew who I was.
They knew.
Yeah.
I mean, we meet.
Should we tell Marty's stories? Just yesterday at pitch, he went. I see you still have a child's name. What else? One time when we were doing a show called Maya and Marty with him, we were doing a sketch, and there was a stop down, and to the audience, he just went, Mikey, how does it feel? How does it feel to be the least famous person on this stage? He's the best.
My favorite Marty time was at the rap party for Maya and Marty, which was at Jody Mancuso, our head of hair. She threw a little barbecue at her house. We were all there hanging out, very fun. And then someone took out, was it Cards Against Humanity? And Marty had never seen that.
Oh my God.
And so each thing was like an improv prompt for him. So like whatever the two cards were, Marty would just do like a 5-minute
That's incredible.
hysterical improvised scene. So it was like we weren't really playing the game. It was just like, let's see what Marty's gonna do next, you know? And they're all like incredibly offensive and stuff. But yeah, man, it was really fun.
Marty did the voice of Cat in the Hat in a cartoon, and my son was really into it, and he recorded a voice memo for my son that was like, hi, hello, I'm with your dad right now. I know, weird, right? He's awesome. He's the best.
And then last one, is there a joke or sketch that never worked? You tried an amount of times, but you'll go to grave being like, I was right, they're wrong. That's funny.
I feel Magical Bakery.
Do
Do we want to give that away?
No, I know one.
What?
I have one.
What?
There's one Mikey and I wrote called, it was for a car security system.
Oh, right.
And the whole thing was that it was a bag of old McDonald's that you just threw in your passenger seat that would make car thieves be like, this car's going to smell. He doesn't take care of his car. He's just filthy. I'll steal a different car. We were so confident in this idea, and I think it ate more. It was just dead silence.
We were
but
like,
I still
"Here we
maintain
go."
that that's a funny idea.
That
That should have worked.
That's
a good
They're
one.
gonna make me have to do it next.
Next time. Absolutely.
You're right.
Hey,
You're so
remember
right.
when we did that interview with Jesse?
You're finish
That's
line
true,
Nate.
yeah.
You get them all over the finish line.
I don't know if I have. I'll break down. If a joke's not working, I'll like break it down for parts. So like it's like it'll just get sucked down to be like I wanted it to be something, and then it just ends up being a line and something. So I mean I don't know if I really think in my head like something that I tried that was like this is good, and then it never. Because sometimes it gets through. Yeah, I don't know if I have a good answer for that.
It's all gold,
I break
baby.
it down. Yeah. It's all. I mean, one. I think I've talked to you about it. Maybe about the milk. Buying milk publicly in the history of my life. That line was. I tried to do a whole joke about buying milk, and saying no, you don't buy milk unless you're married or you have a mom in your house. Right. And then so it never stood on its own, and then it just got switched into one line.
When you
So it's sometimes sad because you think it could be this 2-minute chunk,
Right, yeah.
and then you're like, it's 3 seconds, 2 seconds maybe.
Don't we have the people who just woke up, like Narnia or it's like the long hero's journey, and they arrive at their destination, and then they knock on the castle wall, and the person opens like, what's going on?
It was like they had to climb a mountain to be trained by this master.
Like Kill
and they
Bill,
got there at
you know,
like
she-
5 in the morning. And they're like,
1 second.
"Can you come back at 10?"
Who you looking
But
for?
they're all like, "I'm here to be trained." You know,
Yeah.
that energy.
Okay, 1 second.
All right, well, look, now I'm feeling good about our bad
Because
ideas.
you know what?
Next
Because-
time.
I want to, Jesse.
Yeah.
We need a direct line to you where we can call and you can give us your opinion.
Sure. I mean, I have a phone number.
Yeah.
I need
Oh,
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a
Oh, we
direct
can
line.
just
But we
text
want
you.
just one number that only us three have.
Yeah,
just for
I
us.
was
So we want just
imagining
for
like
us.
a
We could do a
special
group
Yeah.
text.
phone.
A
Yeah.
group text to remember.
It's
this.
more than that. We don't want to be associated with your other numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
it's
want
like
a
orange.
special- yeah.
and it's in our office.
Yeah.
You have one on your bus.
Yeah.
and
And you have one. In
If you
your
pick
you
up
have
the
one in a
orange-
bag, like the old cell phone
Yeah.
bags.
Yeah.
Because you have to carry yours
You have to
around.
carry-
And then we can call.
Jesse, what do you think? Hard no? Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look, sounds great. All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank
We
you.
did it.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thanks for watching and listening. Thank
I just realized
you.
I have my full back turned.
Yeah, the only camera That's it for this episode of Good One. Thank you for watching. I am Jesse David Fox, and you can follow me at Jesse David Fox. Buy my book, Comedy Book, wherever books are sold. Good One is produced by myself, Jelani Carter, and Ann Victoria Clark. Gardner Shigishin did our theme song. Good One is a production of New York Magazine. You can subscribe to the magazine at nymag.com/pod. For more episodes of Good One, subscribe to the Vulture YouTube channel. We'll be back with more episodes soon. Have a good one.